Welcome to the Billy Joe Show. No, I didn't say Billy Joel. I said Billy and Joe. So it's
Uh,
Billy and Joe Show. Um, so we had a death this week of Carl Reiner,
right.
98 years old.
Yes.
98 years old. You know, I was thinking about this before you came to me and or suggested that we do this, and like sometimes you want to have chipped beef and toast just because it was a comfort food when you were a kid, or
Sure.
some
Right.
or something that really just kind of like fish sticks and macaroni and cheese for me, or chili with actually macaroni. I know people are going to be like, no, you don't put macaroni in your chili, but yes, you do when you're poor. It spreads it out. People call it goulash. No, in Indiana, it's called chili. But
Right.
but there are things like that that make me feel comfortable, and there is nothing like watching a per se the Andy Griffith show or
Right.
the Dick Van Dyke show. You can put that on.
Yes.
You can put
Yeah.
that on, and you can feel comfortable with falling asleep while it's on because you know you can watch it again, and it just takes you back to the days where things were a lot more simpler, and not as stressful as it is now in the world. I guess stress is what you make it.
Right.
Carl Reiner, 98 years old, actor. I mean, won 11 Emmy awards, author. In all of the Oceans, 11, 12, 13, and even in the one with all the chicks.
Right.
I won't get in trouble for calling them chicks, right? No, I won't. No.
No.
So kind of give us your rundown on what you thought, or you, Joe. What year did you graduate high school?
I went to the original Anderson High School. I graduated in 1989.
Man, what you guys act like you're the Ohio State University, the original Anderson High School? Is that what you like to call it?
Yeah, because the Anderson High School now is technically in the Madison Heights building. So that's kind of
Really?
like, yes. So Highland High School is no more. That's a middle school. They moved Madison Heights to a middle school as well, and they put the Anderson High School in the Madison Heights building and call it the Anderson High School.
What
So
what do you think about them possibly changing the name?
I'm okay with that. They should, to me personally, um, they should have made the original Anderson High School in downtown a historical place, which it's not. It's just rotting, all of it. So the wigwam and the rest of the surrounding area is just rotting there. That should be a historical marker because there's this huge marker on the grounds that talks about this is a tribute to the World War I veterans, and it should be a historical marker just for that alone. That should all be a historical place, and then they should have all consolidated all the high schools to one high school in the 90s. So
So before we get started, Joe, I'd just like to tell everybody you're from Indy's Local Flavor, which is a podcast, correct? And people can listen to that where?
I'm on Anchor podcast. I'm got a growing audience on iTunes. I'm also on Spotify and iHeartRadio.
Very nice. And just to let everybody know, I have a program called the Keeping the Nostalgia Alive Show. You can listen to all those programs on Keeping the Nostalgia Alive. That's all one word, keepingthenostalgialive.podbean.com. And go ahead and get on YouTube while you got a chance because all the stuff ends up on YouTube also. And you can just search there in the bar for the Keeping the Nostalgia Alive Show. You can see all of our work on there. So head on into it, brother, on Carl Reiner.
Well, I did some research here recently on Mr. Reiner. He was in the Air Force in 40. He got drafted, I believe, in 42, and he started out as a radio operator. Ended up being an actor in the Western Front. So he was acting in Hawaii and Guam, and ended up getting with an honorable discharge in 46. Um, Basically. What we were going to talk about. His huge friendship was with Mel Brooks, and he got Mel Brooks his first job with your show of shows, which was with Sid Caesar, and that was one of the first skit variety shows in the 1950s, and that friendship went on to the present day. But if you really want something that kind of captures Carl Reiner's life, you really, 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 if you're a fan, you really need to watch Jerry Seinfeld's episode in 2000, which I can't believe it's been that long ago. Um, um, or it might have been 2002, where it's the comedians in cars getting coffee with Seinfeld and Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks. And what ends up happening is Mel Brooks, who was like 85, would drive over every night to Carl Reiner's house, and they would sit around and watch Jeopardy and have dinner. So it was a fantastic episode, and he talks about his career. And, it's a good day when Seinfeld drives over to Carl Reiner's house in a green Porsche, 1970 green Porsche Carrera.
Yes,
So,
yes, it is. Also, too, what is fun? Back in the day, you could have done it with your VCR, but today you can do it with your DVR. Is watch Jeopardy, kind of get an idea of the answers, but record it, and then play it with somebody who thinks that you're just playing it, and then you just rattle off all the answers.
and I don't know who came up with this joke, but they said Wheel of Fortune's the setup for you, make you feel really smart, but when Jeopardy comes on, yeah, they punch you right in the mouth. So yeah.
Matter of fact, you could do that with Wheel of Fortune too. Oh, it'd be a lot easier to remember all the answers on Wheel of Fortune than it would be for Jeopardy.
Right. And the thing that gets me about Jeopardy is, you've got all these super physicists, super science guys, and super math guys, but they say who's the first James Bond, and it's totally they have no answer. And I'm like, really? So yeah. So
You know what's interesting naming those two game shows is I would, if I would have ever been a guest on Wheel of Fortune, I would have spun that big wheel. I'd have been clapping my hands, big money, big money, big money.
Right,
And
sure.
Pat Sajak would have said, Billy, what can we get you? I'll say, I would like an X as in xylophone. Oh, and then next round, I'd like a P as in psychology.
You might get something on that.
You know what I didn't know? This is fun doing these because we don't know where we're going to head. Do you remember when Chuck Woolery hosted Wheel of Fortune?
2 and 2. A little
Yes.
bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And he was during those days that, you'd win $5,000 and they'd take you to rooms rather than give you the cash.
Right.
And you'd be like, I'll take the Stone Dalmatian for $10,000. And then they'll say, Billy, you have $45. We'll go ahead and put that on a service merchandise credit card.
Right, sure. So who wants a Stone Dalmatian?
Hey, that's all you could buy. Okay, continue on with Mr. Reiner. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's totally fine. I guess. Well, he was in History of the World Part 1 with Mel Brooks. He was in part of that. He did a bunch of animated voiceovers, and you talked about all the ocean movies, but he was also, I think he directed The Jerk.
You're correct.
With Steve Martin.
Mm-hmm.
So he did that. He did a bunch of Steve Martin movies, which was The Jerk, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. He did George Burns with Oh God. I watched this last night because I'd never seen it. It's on YouTube. It's the 2,000-year-old man bit with Reiner and Brooks, and that's very funny. The Man with Two Brains, and yeah, and then we talk a little bit about the Dick Van Dyke Show, but if there's no Dick Van Dyke Show, there's no sitcoms, in my opinion. If you don't have that show, you don't have, if you don't have that show, you don't have Mary Tyler Moore, you don't have Friends, you don't have Seinfeld, you don't have Three's Company. You just, and then those shows spawned with his son, Rob Reiner, those shows spawned Archie Bunker. Those shows spawned all the Neil Simon shows, which is like All in the Family, the Jeffersons, Good Times, and all those shows that you can't do now.
I actually watched him the other night. I remember as a kid trying to watch this movie or sneak in the hallway and watch it while my parents watched it, but the movie was called The End with Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
And Carl Reiner is in it. So he played in a lot of movies besides producing and directing also.
Right, right. Good actor. He was a great actor. Right, great actor.
And also, if you think about it, without Carl Reiner, we also don't have When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah,
You can go on what Rob Reiner has directed and produced. Um,
yeah.
Now, the only good thing if Carl Reiner wasn't around that we wouldn't have seen the life and times of Dickie Roberts with David Spade. But I don't. That's the only downside I see.
Yeah, I know you're a Spade guy, which I am not.
Oh, well, you know what? When we talked about comfort stuff,
Right,
and
sure. Right,
there's
right.
enough crap going on in the world, even in those times when I watch this stupid stuff, that silly, slapstick, dumb, innuendo humor
Yeah.
comforts me, and
Oh, yeah.
I find it funny. Life's too short to be serious all the damn time.
Oh, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
That's why I own the entire Mel Brooks collection on Blu-ray. I agree with you.
About how long ago? When did they form this relationship?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. I want to say 19 early 50s. So they got out of um Carl Reiner was in Broadway for a while, and then he got into early television. So I want to say mid 50s, like 55 ish. So yeah, and that just blows my mind.
Yeah, we're losing a lot of good ones, man. 1922. Can you believe being born in 1920? I mean, 2 years shy of a century year old.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and can you imagine all the you know when he hears people complaining about this, that, or the other not working and what he didn't have in this lifetime. So yeah.
And Mel Brooks himself made just, shoot, Mel Brooks it's got to be 94, 95 years old himself, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he's like, I think he's like, 6 or 8 years younger. And I didn't know Carl Reiner had a Twitter account. So, so I'm like, didn't know that. So, so yeah, I mean, yeah, lost one of the great ones on that one. So that's for sure.
But Mel Brooks had some great movies, though. Great movies. And some of the slapstick funny stuff that, some people make fun of us watching today. Yeah, I mean, he kind of started it for us.
Oh yeah, I was watching um, the the bonus information about Blazing Saddles, and there were there were four or five main writers on Blazing Saddles. It was Paramount wouldn't cast Richard Pryor as the sheriff. He wasn't a big enough star,
Wow, I did
and
not know
so
that he was up for that.
yeah, and Mel Mel Brooks begged the company to put Richard Pryor as the sheriff in '74. He wasn't a big enough star yet, and he talked about it was Mel Brooks who wrote it, Richard Pryor who wrote it, and then there were two regular guys. One was a lawyer and one was a dentist, and they both wrote it as well. And they just they thought it was going to be a total crapshoot, and they just said, "Well, we're just good." And this is Mel Brooks' quote. Mel Brooks asked a business friend of his if what he should do with the movie, and the guy said, "Hey, if you're gonna go for it, you better go ring the bell." And uh, Mel Brooks quote of it. Mel Brooks quote was, "So we went and we rang the crap out of that bell," and he didn't say crap.
You know,
So
it's interesting that you brought up that Richard Pryor had the possibility of being in that role. I like reading up on that kind of stuff. And you do you know who almost was the role of Han Solo?
man, I should know this. I should know this answer, but he passed on it. He,
Yo, Adrian.
um, oh no,
Can
Stallone!
Yeah,
Oh, that would have been dreadful.
man. I don't have man. I could just I thought I have a very good feeling about this. Something like that in Star Wars. I just can't see it. And also, what's interesting when they rebooted Superman,
Yeah,
the first person asked and turned down was Nicolas Cage.
that's interesting.
But who wants to see a
No,
bald
no, no.
Superman?
There is a movie with Superman, but it's in the can. That was
Ah,
the Kevin Smith movie
okay.
that the company said, no, we're not doing that. And Nicolas Cage did play Superman for that.
And I think Will Smith was asked too, because that would have been a very interesting role for him.
And he could have pulled that off.
Oh yeah, he could have. Are you kidding me? He could still pull that off, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know who the new Superman is. So, because I can't remember the guy's name. He wanted too much money, so the company said, so.
Did you ever watch the old Superman? Speaking, we're talking about sitcoms and TV and old movies. Did you ever watch the old Superman with George Reeves?
Oh, yeah. Like
Yeah,
all the time. The black and white. Yeah.
yeah.
All the time. Loved it.
I remember sitting there watching it. Of course, these were made in the '50s, maybe late '40s and '50s, and I'm watching it in the early '70s, and my dad saying, "Oh, he's laying on a board when he's flying," and I was kind of mad at my dad for telling me that.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
much for the illusion.
yeah, I think I would have figured it out, but what are some other sitcoms? I mean, you had the Andy Griffith Show, you had Dick Van Dyke, you had Mary Tyler Moore. The world TV is almost void of sitcoms anymore, or anything that
Yeah.
is going to last or has any kind of staying power.
Right. Right. Well, you had Family Ties with Michael J. Fox. Um, when I look back on it now, I didn't think it was. I thought it was great at the time. When I look back on it now, Different Strokes, Facts of Life. Uh,
Welcome back, Cotter.
yes, Welcome Back, Cotter. I watch that all the time. That's on Antenna TV here in Indianapolis, which is great. And that's along with Barney Miller. I watch
Off the top of your head, did you have any sitcoms that you really liked, and like after 2 years they were yanked, and you were kind of sad, but you just moved on?
uh, um, hmm.
There,
I was more into the comic sci-fi thing. So I wasn't. If it was like a one-hit wonder on a sitcom, not so much. So I was more into the comic sci-fi thing. So
do you watch any British TV?
well, yes, I'm a fan. I'm not hardcore, but I'm a fan. And like, I love the British Office with Ricky Gervais. If you need a laugh, that that is extremely funny. Extremely funny. It makes the American Office look like kindergarten.
Yes, it
It's that
does.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel really bad that I got into it really late, but I really, really am enjoying a lot of their stuff. Like, I don't know if you've ever watched the series Doc Martin.
No.
Really good stuff, and and Ricky Gervais is just freaking hilarious. He's got a sitcom on Netflix called Afterlife, and it's just fantastic if you get a chance to watch it.
Yeah, he's a great actor, great writer. He's funny, funny, funny guy.
And
And he's
I love that he puts people in their place, though.
yes, he does. And he's great on Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. They gave him 2 episodes. It's so good. So Yeah, really funny.
So, anything else about Carl Reiner?
Um, huh.
Carl Reiner was also one of those people. Like, I know this is going to be a whack comparison, but he always kept his name out there for 98 years. He
Yeah.
always he was always relevant. You know,
Well, I mean, yeah, if you look at his, I mean, for his age, for him to even think about getting a role in Ocean's 11 and being in all those movies, that's pretty outstanding by itself. So, and he was in Toy Story 4, which to me is kind of a throwaway. I'm
yeah,
not. I
that's
love the Toy Story movie, but
yeah.
the Toy Story 4 I was like, eh.
There's a snake in my boot.
No, those
Somebody
are
has
great movies.
poisoned the water hole. I
Right.
think he played the rhinoceros, didn't he?
I didn't see Toy Story 4. I don't know.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Okay, okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's a great series, and so is Star Wars. But you know, just at the end, they're just milking it. I think.
Oh, without a doubt. I
Yeah.
mean, I did learn something new this week about Star Wars, which kind of blew my mind. So it was Mark Hamill was upset that uh, Mark Hamill was upset that a deleted scene didn't make the movie of Star Wars, and
Which
there
one?
was the first one, 1977, New Hope, Star Wars: A New Hope, and he was upset that the deleted scene didn't make the movie. It's a scene where um, uh, Luke's looking up at the sky at a battle with the Star Destroyers, and a female that's never been seen before is there and views it with him, and her character name's called Cammy, and I'm like, but you're a Star Wars guy, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so do you read at all? You enjoy reading?
What are you trying to say, Joe?
You have to read Dark Empire
Okay.
because I mean, some people don't read. I'll say, hey, you need to read this, you need to read that, and they'll say, well, I don't read. Everything's on. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, you need to read Dark Empire. If you're a Star Wars person, you need to read Dark Empire, and I'll give you a little hint. Luke Skywalker gets married, and that's why I was so hot when the new films that came out with the J.J. Abrams didn't take that road at all.
And who knows? Maybe 10 years from now, they'll put out all the movies again without all the outtakes that they didn't have in it, like they did previously.
Yeah, when I'm 80.
Yeah. And you know what though? I went and saw them.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I went and saw them for a couple other characters in the cantina and everything else like that, and sat there and watched it like I was a 10-year-old at Eastgate Theater.
Yeah. Right. you know, and drop $20, and then there you go.
Yeah.
Man, I want to see a movie in a theater again, Billy.
Uh, in a what?
A theater.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, it would beat spending $100 to go see Garth Brooks at the drive-in.
Okay.
$100, man. And
No,
I
thank you.
and I think I think I'm probably wrong. I think it's higher.
I'm sure it's higher.
$100.
No thanks.
I'll just sit home and on YouTube type in Garth Brooks, and I'll have 5 hours of fun.
ESPN's carrying the Eagles at the Staples Center on Sunday. I'm like, huh? I'm like, that's the sports channel, dude. Sorry.
Hey man, what do you think about the sports with no fans?
Well, what are you gonna do? I hate it. But here's the thing, Billy. If they flush the NFL season, people are gonna be insane. Insane.
And most of those insane would be those within the NFL, man. That's
Yeah.
a that's a That's a cult, man. I was so surprised that I guess I don't know if his first if he is a doctor. Dr. Fauci said there'll be no football. I was just gonna figure he'd be disappear because the NFL because the NFL's like, let's go ahead and get rid of this guy right now
I'll get
because
Goodell on line one.
yeah. But you know what? This may be a dumb statement, but I'm gonna say it.
Go for it.
The Houston Texans in here in Houston.
Right.
They are a poorly ran organization, in my opinion, because they're cheap. But because if there's no fans at the NFL, I think that gives an advantage to a professional team that's not really good.
Well, I'm going to be honest. Okay. No. We'll just do a deduction, Billy. Where does the NFL teams really make their money?
TV.
Correct. So how much of a percentage is the fan ticket sales anyway?
Well, I agree. I agree.
So, which, you know, so I mean,
Those tickets aren't cheap though.
oh, heck no.
Yeah.
Well, because I remember when the year after Manning left, and they've invited me twice to go get season tickets, but the first time they invited me to go get season tickets for the Colts, it was $1,000 for 10 games. I'm like, no. So, and that's in the middle. That's not lower deck. So,
I've got to see Indiana University win a national championship. Of course, it was in '87, but still, I got to see that. I got to
yeah,
see the Colts win a Super Bowl. The
right.
only thing that I feel like I'm not going to see in my life, and I know I'm making a sharp right here, is I don't see the Indiana Pacers winning a NBA title.
We're a small market, brother. I agree with you. You
So
know who the rumor was, and I don't know where it got.
I can explain it to you.
I don't know what happened to it, but the rumor was like, oh, I know what it was. When Paul George was still here, we were going to get a marquee player here in Indy, and for whatever reason, it didn't work out. Can you imagine for a minute if Paul George played with Anthony Davis of the Lakers? How that would have changed the landscape.
You're right. And that is a nice way to segue into what our show is going to be about, the Billy Joe show.
Okay,
Was it
right.
was it Billy Joe who jumped off the Taxahatchee Bridge? Wasn't that a song back in the '60s or something like that? Well, I'll look that up and I'll have that for Sunday's show. But we're talking about the most overrated and underrated players in both the ABA and the NBA. And
Right.
I'm sorry, Paul George is overrated. So
Uh,
man, there's a lot of
uh,
people who just don't. They've made it. They've got $1 million, multiple $1 million in their pocket, and they're like crap on the fans.
I don't know about that. I don't know
Okay, so this is going to be an interesting show coming up Sunday then.
because yeah, I mean, because he got caught in, because I'll come back with Lucifer's advocate. Um, I don't believe the Pacers front office drafted or traded very well at all after Ron Artest. So
I can see that. But you're talking about the state of Indiana. In 49 other states, it's just basketball, but this is Indiana.
yes,
I
it
mean, I
is.
mean, you're also talking. I mean, this is where the game wasn't invented here, but it was perfected here,
Yes,
and it's disgusting.
yes,
It's disgusting. I mean, so much success with the ABA Pacers, and it's and there'll be years too where they get you so excited and on the edge of your seat, and then right in the toilet. Just I mean, and everybody is going to really, really hate me Sunday night after I tell you the most overrated player in the NBA.
I already know.
But we're not going to tell them though.
Little teaser.
Yeah, yeah.
I already know. He's your number one?
Oh, yes, he is, man. I may get a spike in ratings. There's another hint.
He's your number one. Okay.
Hey, yes, he is, man. You know what, too? I also want you to put this in your pipe and smoke it. Man, I haven't used that in a long time. I think it was my dad who used to tell me that.
Considering I don't smoke.
Yeah. I also want a franchise that's underrated and overrated.
Okay, sure, certainly.
Yes, and I think I know where you're going to go on it. And this could be kind of interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're losing the great ones because they're getting old and we're getting old, and it's I know not to quote a Disney movie, but I know it's just the circle of life. But he leaves a lot of work for a lot of people to watch and enjoy, and there's a lot of stuff that people had passed when we were younger that we're now just picking up and enjoying. And I hope the kids and millennials and kids growing up now will kind of dig deep into that Carl Reiner library and lineage, and really get to enjoy what humor was.
Yeah, my kids are Generation Z.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Joe Carney, thank you very much, man. Hey, I'm going to leave you with something that I heard today is a little bit of global warming. That Argentina this summer so far has been really, really cool.
Okay.
Matter of fact, it's bordering Chile.
Yes, it always does.
Okay, the Billy Joe Show. We'll have to name it that, I guess, from now on, unless somebody else has got some some of the peanut gallery can toss 2 cents in on what we should call this show. But this upcoming Sunday night, 6 o'clock, we're going to do the top 10 overrated, underrated in professional basketball players, and we're going to pick a franchise each.
Yes.
And Joe, tell them again the name of your podcast and where they can find it again one more time, please.
It's Indy's Local Flavor. You can find it on Anchor. You can find it on iTunes Podcasts and Spotify and iHeartRadio.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe Carney.
Thank you, Billy. It's fun as always.
All right, man.